Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the PlayStation Experience podcast, PlayStation's
Hello.
official PSVG podcast.
Hi.
Did I hear something over the
Hello.
airwaves? Hello.
Hello.
How you
How's
doing?
it going? It's so weird because I personally look for visual cues when we talk on the podcast and whatnot. But since we are trying this without actually using cameras to look at each other, all I'm staring at is the beautiful, well-designed PSVG logo. And so it's like, I don't know when I should be talking. I'm getting a little bit nervous. And
No,
then
it's okay. I thought we had another break-in by Kevin Butler, but so I was really confused.
Oh,
for a second
no.
there.
Here. I'll try calling them. Oh, Charlie Brown's teacher? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you. I'm really sorry. I know it's 6 a.m. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have Kevin Butler's number, as it turns out, so I guess I don't know what to do with that. Jeez.
That's all right. That reminds me, I was just listening as I was getting prepared for our podcast, just listening to Arcadia Academia from this past weekend.
Yeah.
And so this is the second podcast in a week that has featured Charlie Brown's teacher.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So just throwing that out there. Also, one thing I thought of, I haven't made it through the whole episode yet, but you guys were trying to think of a Japanese developed game that released first in America.
In the US, yes.
So but I do have a Japanese developed console that released first in America.
And what would that be?
The PlayStation 4.
Really?
Yep. Well, it released in America and other places worldwide before it actually released in Japan.
That's crazy.
Yep, it launched in America, North America, it launched on November 15th, 2013. PAL, whatever that means.
Japan, essentially.
Nope, it does not mean Japan.
Oh, well,
Asia. Well, yeah, it kind of would. Well, anyway, PAL, except for Japan, it launched November 29th, 2013, and then in Japan it launched February 22nd, 2014.
Like, I don't know what the acronyms actually stand for, but when I think of PAL versus NTSC, it's like a type of format of the games back in the day in terms of ROMs, because, it's not hacker, emulator fan. And so when I hear PAL, I instantly think Japan, because most of the games that got released for the ROMs I play is strictly Japan. So I said that, and NTSC, as I'm sure you can guess, would be more North America region.
Right. So PAL stands for Phase Altering Line. Whatever the heck that means. It covers most of Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, and Oceania.
Really? Maybe it's a type of encoding, or or not encoding, just coding in general.
Yeah, something. So, okay, we learned something. But anyway, I thought of the PlayStation 4 as a console was released first here before it made it to Japan.
And if anybody does have information they want to tell us about, PAL versus NTSC, because I would love to know this, go ahead and email us at psxppodcast@gmail.com. Just throw that in there. We'd love to hear stuff, corrections, questions, all that stuff, man.
Oh yeah. Or you can reach us on Twitter at PSXP Podcast.
Like that. You see that's plug-in specialty right there, baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. Good transition. Speaking of transitions, I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Oh man. We're going into overtime. Oh, yep.
I don't get it.
Oh, sorry. Well, the person that says curveball the most in the podcasts I've heard is usually our man Devin Tyus. Usually, whenever Coach Mo likes to ask a lot of questions, Devin will say, "No, I'm going to throw you a curveball and ask you a question."
Okay.
And so, them being on overtime. Shout out.
Right. My curveball isn't quite like that. My curveball is just that we're going to start off with the mailbag.
Ooh.
Before we get to what we've been playing.
Okay.
mainly because I think what we've been playing might be a longer conversation.
Okay.
For the mailbag, we have a question from @PSVG Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yes. He says stories were breaking yesterday or the day before that state Sony is once again preventing cross-platform, this time with Fortnite. Why this free title? Surely there's no chance of revenue loss. What do you think are their concerns? Do you have any thoughts about crossplay or about the topic?
I mean, sometimes when it comes to this kind of matter, it's not necessarily money, but rather publicity. Because honestly, if there's one thing that Sony can hold on to right now against Microsoft's PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds exclusivity, honestly, Fortnite would be a good answer to this. And so if Sony can have some kind of foothold on, what is going to be apparently a mass multiplayer battle arena version of a shooter, this would be their big chance. And honestly, they don't have to pay too much for this. And yeah, it is free, unfortunately, but it doesn't necessarily mean that when they make their own version, should they, somehow get something set up here, it's not going to be free in the future. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the name. Fortnite is a big name right now, and if it's free, that's great. But when Fortnite 2 comes out and it's PlayStation only or whatnot in the future, no, I'm not saying it's completely true or likely to happen. It could be, though. And so Sony has to keep that door open. And so it's true that Sony could also be fair and do stuff because, we know before that Sony was being a real stickler about being cross platform in terms of like Rocket League servers.
Yep.
The Psyonix said very specifically that everybody could be playing against everybody if it wasn't for the fact that certain big companies that they run their platforms on would agree to it. And right. Sony's been that guy sometimes.
Right. Well, with Rocket League and with Minecraft,
yes,
have specifically talked about it. And then now Fortnite, there was a time, I don't know how long ago, a month or two ago, that Fortnite's servers were actually turned on so that some PlayStation gamers were actually playing with Xbox gamers.
Really?
Supposedly the Fortnite people said was a bug, but is widely thought to just be they just decided to turn it on just to do it. I don't know.
It's weird that you say that because I imagine like people just playing in the demilitarized zone in between the Koreas, and they're just looking at each other like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And the people they're like touching their fingers towards each other, like, "Are you real? I've never seen you before." And then all of a sudden, like a giant wall just comes down. "You've been disconnected," or something like that. I don't know why that picture went in my head, but
well, the Olympics and we're in Korea, so maybe you've had Korea on the brain.
That's very possible. Sure.
So, in general, with crossplay, it's something that I really don't care about. I mean, I think it would be neat to be able to play whatever game with whomever. Obviously, we know people who play completely on Xbox or mostly on Xbox. It'd be great to play a game like with Q. I don't think he has a PlayStation. I think he just has Xbox. So, there's no, we can't ever play games together except for Nintendo. But we can't play, like if I got whatever game he plays, one of the Rainbow Six games.
Right, Rainbow Six or something like that.
Yeah. So if I got something like that, I can't play with them. It would be neat to do that. But
it would be. Like my problem personally is PUBG. If it came out on the PlayStation 4, so I could actually and it allowed cross-platform play, I'd be able to play with the PSVG team because nobody wants to play on the computer.
Right.
You were saying though,
I'm almost surprised they don't have crossplay between computer and Xbox.
Oh, I mean, unfortunately, I have a very simple answer for that, and that's just because people that have mouse and keyboard, it's generally accepted statistically that mouse and keyboard gives you much better accuracy than thumbstick.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they can like increase the sensitivity of their mouse so much that if you're ridiculously good, you could totally outplay somebody where the controller only has like a 1 to 10 sensitivity, whereas the mouse you can just hit a button and it drops or increases the DPI on it to such crazy levels that you can go do some wild mind enhancing chemicals and just go wild. Why you do that and why that'd give you advantage, I'm not saying that's why at this point. I'm just
that's good insight.
There are people out there that are so good that sensitivity is next to nothing. So if they can increase it even more, it would give them a huge advantage over the people that would be capped on the console.
Right, makes sense. But with crossplay, I forget how many PS4s have been sold, but it's something like 76 million.
Okay.
And the Microsoft has not released, to my knowledge, Xbox sales, but it's 30 million, give or take a few million in either direction. I'm not sure. I don't think that it would be up to 40 yet, but I don't know. Either way, there's something like half Microsoft has sold half Xbox Ones compared to PS4s. And in the last generation, when 360 was way ahead early on, the idea of cross-platform play came up. I don't know what specific games, but Microsoft declined to do it because they were ahead. Why would that's an advantage? If you're playing Destiny and you can choose, and you have both consoles, and you can choose to play on your Xbox where there's a player pool of up to 30 million, depending on, I don't know how many people, 10% maybe buy a game. I'm not sure. There's a player pool of up to 30 million versus PS4 player pool of up to 75 million. Why wouldn't you go with the bigger player pool? And where your friends are, there are a lot of other considerations, of course, but
right.
The idea based on that alone, it's an advantage for Sony. Why would they give up their advantage business wise?
Like in terms of connectivity nowadays, you would think that the concept of isolationism would finally evaporate. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and people want to see competitiveness to the point to where they want to snuff out any competing people.
Yeah.
And so I can see why Sony is like, hey, I do not want to cooperate and accept the idea that you may be existing right now, and we hope to one day put you out of business.
Yeah.
It's kind of cold, yes, but it's a business at its finest, unfortunately, with American consumerism. But hopefully maybe there's one day that we can all respect that we are going to exist in some shape and form, and we just got to find a way to fit into our proper space. But as a company, I would also be in the mindset that I don't want to be in my proper space. I want to expand, and that includes potentially entrenching on other people's previous properties. So I can respect what they're doing. And honestly, like I said, beyond that one situation where maybe I could play with some of the other people on PSVG, we will one day hopefully find common ground. And oddly enough, I think so far it's actually the Nintendo Switch of all the things that we actually found, a proper place together. A little bit more on the Xbox One too, not so much on the PS4, which is kind of sad, but details. It's a sad little island, my friend.
It's a huge island. The PS4 has outsold the Xbox. There are more PS4 owners than Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Wii U owners combined.
Wow.
As of today, that won't be. I gather by the end of this year that might not be true anymore because the Switch is continuing to sell. Hopefully continuing to sell gangbusters. But
yeah, I know this is a PlayStation podcast, but man, the Switch is really pounding it. I honestly didn't expect it to hit the sales that they were. Good trajectories, And obviously, I'm just as much a Nintendo man as a Sony fanboy, but man, just good on them. But more importantly, what were you going to say?
I don't know.
Did I throw the curveball right at you or what?
Yeah, sure. No, I think we're good with this conversation. I mean, I think ideally as gamers, we and people who have friends who have whatever console. It'd be great to play with whomever, whenever, on whatever game. But it's not something that bothers. It sounds like it doesn't really bother you. It really doesn't bother me either.
I mean, Kevin's question summary, why is Sony preventing cross-platform with Fortnite? If the answer isn't money, which in this case it's not currently, the second answer is more than likely always going to be publicity or potentially the paved way to make money. That's how it is with this stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, it's all about money somewhere. It's you want to have the biggest group to play Fortnite with. Play it on PlayStation or Rocket League or whatever.
It's like this with every single company, honestly, when it comes to video games. If they're not doing something to solely make money, they're doing it so they can make sure every single person that might look their way is going to see this light up like a firework. Yep. Even if it's the most minor, I'm going to say this in quotes, charity work, it's going to have their logo all over it. We're going to help with the tsunami efforts, but don't forget to check out Battlefield 4.
Yeah, it's like
don't quote me on that, please.
The Olympics, the women's Jamaican bobsled team. Did you follow that story at all?
I did not.
So it's a 2-person bobsled team, and they were coming the first women from Jamaica to ever be in the Winter Olympics, I believe, and they were getting ready for time trials, and I don't know exactly who the person was, but they demoted a coach to being like an analyst or something, and that coach got mad, and she's the one who had access to their sled. So she said, well, if you're demoting me, screw you, I'm not getting the sled. So Red Stripe, the beer company that was started in Jamaica, actually procured them a sled.
Nice.
It's a great story, and I don't think they did very well at the Olympics, but it's a great story.
That's still a heartfelt story of on the premises of failure, a company was willing to reach out, and yes, once again, I'm going to hold to my story that if it's not money, it's publicity, but it's still an act of a good gesture. So good on them.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I haven't bought any beer since then, but next time I'm in the store, I might actually. I've never tried Red Stripe, so
no. Red Stripe to me, when I think of that name, I think of a actual energy drink on the same line as 5 Energy or 5 Hour.
Huh.
Like I think what I'm thinking personally is called Red Line.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Don't actually drink the whole thing, as it turns out, because you'll start tasting colors, man. It has a lot of caffeine in it.
All right. I'll have to check that out. Just don't mix it with.
I was gonna say I just said don't do it, man. Don't do it. Do it. But
I figured this was opposite day.
Oh yeah. Today's we wish. Well, actually, no. I was gonna try to work that into a joke with getting Kevin Butler back on, but it's not gonna happen. It looks like.
So, speaking of opposite day, Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9.
It's that's a really great game.
It's probably the best Mega Man game I've seen since the history of Mega Man. Like, they've really outdone themselves. Honestly, I think they found like the pinnacle of perfection right there. Could they even go any better? Honestly, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So,
like, I'm sure they made so much money that honestly, they're like, okay, we sold at least 25 million copies. We're done with this. It was a great success, but there's some poor innocent people out there that we don't need to make any more money. Let's just make it free for people because for publicity. Honestly,
right. Yeah,
good on them. Thank you, Inafune. Thank you for giving us such a great idea of a game, and how well your concept turned out.
So more seriously,
okay.
Are you still playing Mighty Number 9?
The answer is yes. I've only put a couple hours into it, and I'm gonna add not to great success.
Yeah,
as I mentioned to you before, I've been actually trying to catch up on a different type of PlayStation game.
Oh yeah,
but honestly, if we're gonna talk about Mighty Number 9, right now, I would probably say that it is a interesting game. but that's such a safe on the fence statement. Oh man, have you played an actual Mega Man game or a Mega Man X?
I played Mega Man 2. I haven't played it. I never beat it, but I've played it and I've beaten some of the bosses and played around with it.
Okay, I have played Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo. Did not beat it, and I have played a Mega Man X5 for the PlayStation 1 and have beat it. Now, those games were extremely difficult to me, and I do remember me not being too happy with it, but I respected it. It was also the reason why I never played a Mega Man game since. It's one of those things where I got to the credit screens, I put my hand in the air and started shouting "no more" in my 12-year-old voice. And so I was very happy with what I did, but I was also very happy with not ever doing it again. Now, when I got my hands on Mighty Number 9, I did not feel that intense, like, I got to grind this for hours just to, do what I have to do. Right. I mean, there's been times where, like, I'd get murdered and I'd just kind of, like, start gawking and balking at what just happened. And I was like, really? That thing that's dropped down and insta-killed me and just made me lose all the progress where I managed to dodge, like, tons of oily fires and, murdering all these little bulldozers. It's not really a bulldozer. It was like a forklift or something like that. But anyways, it's not as bad as what I was thinking it out to be. Now, I have seen what the concept art was presented as versus what the game came out as. And that's a huge difference. But I'm going to be honest here. Concept art is exactly that. Concept art.
Right.
What do you think about it, though, man?
So I haven't put a ton of time in it, but it's I like difficult platformers. I like side scrollers. Shovel Knight is one of my favorite games on this current generation and of all time. Another game that I've been playing recently is the Mutant Mudds collection. And Mutant Mudds is widely talked about as being very difficult.
Yep.
And it's pretty difficult, but I make it through each level, and it takes me a few tries or whatever. And it's somewhat Mega Man-ish, Mighty Number 9-ish, but I can get through it. So it's not difficulty, but there's something about Mighty Number 9 where the deaths feel unearned or something. I don't know.
There's one thing typically, or I guess two things really, that you usually got to worry about in a Mega Man game: spikes, and then getting beaten to a pummeled so badly that you die. And Mighty Number 9, there is much more than that. And usually it's in the one-hit KO fields that it's really frustrating because you'll get a warning like half a second beforehand if you're new to the area, and then too late. It's unfortunate.
Well, and then there's the thing where you shoot an enemy and then you have to dash through them.
Yes,
and that's an annoying mechanic to me.
Honestly, like, I'm not a big fan, nor do I care about point systems. I'm more just complete the level and I'm happy.
Yep.
So as soon as I seen those guys light up, I don't care if I can light them up more to get a higher percentage of points. Just make them a little atomized or whatever you want to call it, and just fly right through them and just keep moving.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I do too, but it's just timing that sometimes it kind of.
Oh yeah. Like, did you get past the tutorial, or what levels did you play?
I got past the tutorial, and then I've been playing the oil level.
So we're on the same boat essentially. Like those four-way flame guys are like the bane of my existence.
Yeah. And I got through the boss, or like the first part of the boss of that level, I think. I don't know.
I'm trying to even remember what it was, honestly.
Oh man, Mr. Oilman. Anyway, Mighty Number 9, one of the free games. The gameplay is fine. I think it looks good. There's the talking is a little bit slow because you can't
dopey too.
Yeah, and you can't fast forward through it, and it's kind of dumb.
Like, if I remember correctly, there's moments where I was like, man, the voice actors are doing pretty good, and then there's just moments like they go from like serious to corny real quick, and I'm like, okay, fine, let's keep this moving. Like they kept having conversations where I'd want to shoot out a 10-foot long cane and just pull back right from the neck and just say, "Okay, just keep moving, please. We're good here."
Yeah. All right. So I think our recommendation is if you have PlayStation Plus and you've not played Mighty Number 9, give it a try. But it's mostly a pass. Jump into Ratchet and Clank or even Bloodborne if you really crave that difficulty.
I mean, we don't want to throw the gauntlet down now. I'm personally going to keep playing.
All right.
I will give you a final verdict, and also I want to hear what Justin thinks about it.
Yes.
So,
you know, maybe that's what he's doing right now. He's playing Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, he realized that he done goofed, and so he's playing right now. He's actually on the hotline with Mr. Butler as we speak, and Mr. Butler is actually giving him all the cheat codes to make this game good again. And so I can respect that. Good job, Justin, and thank you, Mr. Butler. We do appreciate you.
We do.
We do.
All right. Why don't we, since we're talking about what we've been playing, why don't you talk about what you've been playing this past week or so, since we razzed you about it last week?
Yes. As people of the previous PlayStation Experience podcast would remember, I got maybe not slammed for it, since Seth and Justin are very admirable people and they're very mature about things. But I suppose shamed would be a more acceptable term. That I have not touched a Uncharted game. Yeah, I'm here on the PlayStation podcast. People are not too happy with that. In fact, I got shamed about it by, well, playfully, mind you, by other people of the PSVG community. So I took it upon myself to start playing the Uncharted series, and I have beaten the first 3.
Okay, cool.
And like, I know that goes from like, I've played nothing to like, I now understand Nathan Drake. I see all. I now understand, Sullivan's backstory and why he knows Drake so well. Also, I think that Marlo is a terrible villain, but what do I know?
Oh, I like Marlo.
I thought she was good too, but her reasoning for wanting the treasure just seemed very misconstrued. Because, honestly, she didn't seem like that type of character. She seemed like an angry, rich lady that has, some snarkiness with daddy's money. And suddenly they're like, oh, she wants this for power. And it's like, she has power. What is she going to do? Like, does she have an older sister she doesn't like and she just needs this one little extra step edge over? I mean, it never gets represented. And as far as I can tell, she's not going to be in Uncharted 3 Part 2 anytime soon. So...
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of those things where power, the more power you have, the more power you want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like,
I don't know.
The green had to been really greener, or the grass had to be really greener on that other side for her want, some crazy power that it got shown in Uncharted 3. Now, Uncharted 1, I actually forgot what the name of the bad guy was. Do you remember who it was?
No, Eddie is what pops into my head, but I think that's like the henchman.
Yeah, I think, and then there was like Raja or something like that, which was like, I think Eddie was the angry guy that actually like kind of turned neutral with you at the very end because you guys had to fight off a bunch of never do well monster guys.
Okay,
but
Navarro.
Alex Navarro of GiantBomb.com. Yes, I actually heard he was playing as villain too.
Okay, so Gabriel Roman.
I would pay to have Alex Navarro as an Uncharted villain. That would be great. Anyways, you were saying though.
Gabriel Roman was the leader of the mercenaries, and then he hired Atok Navarro.
Yeah, that's right. And at the very end, I think the antagonist position may change. Technically.
Yeah. And then Eddie Raja is in. Eddie is hired by Gabriel Roman also.
Yes, but he was more like the loudmouth, smarty two-shoe guy that would always like kind of talk crap at Nathan, whereas Roman would be more the serious, cold-hearted guy that, I want the treasure, give me the El Dorado thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So Eddie. So it's Eddie Roman or Eddie Raja, Gabriel Roman, and Atok Navarro.
Okay. And then the second one, it focused mostly on angry Russian sounding guy, which I don't remember his name.
Lazarovich.
Lazarovich. Oh man. Now that is, it's a bit stereotypical of like a villain because I'm immediately thinking James Bond villains, and honestly, he had the scar over his face and all that stuff. Uh, in terms of that though, he filled the tea pretty well. Like he might have had like a couple of flaws, like while he's angrily waiting to get to the place he needs to go, maybe he could be like like crocheting or something like that. Just give him a weird flaw or some kind of weird quirk. But no, he was just flat out cartoonishly evil, and well, he wasn't really cartoonishly. He did some messed up stuff, but good for him.
Yeah. So are you typically among Uncharted fandom? A lot of people say 2 is the best game. A lot of people, it's either 2 or 3. I'm somebody who thinks they progressively get better and better through Uncharted 4. Which one did you prefer, 2 or 3? Because they're, in a lot of ways, they're similar in terms of quality. They're both great games.
Sure. I like number 1, I'm going to have to say with almost certainty, and I'm sure most people do, as a beginning of an adventure, both by Naughty Dog and by Nathan Drake, it was good, but it wasn't what, it turned into.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to have to say, though, that while I like the story of the second game a little bit better than the Pillars of Iram storyline in 3, I'm going to have to say that I enjoyed 3 a lot better.
Okay.
I don't know why. Just I think it was mostly because of the backup plot that they started pumping into the third one. Now, I know the fourth one starts sweeping the floor with all sorts of wild stuff. I haven't gotten too far in, but definitely, I really do enjoy that. They show Nathan Drake. I'm also kind of glad that they didn't start doing the stuff where they introduced the father into the film or into the video game. Now, I know they technically do it with another family member in the fourth one, but usually, especially in like Disney movies or whatnot, it's like at this point they got to introduce the long lost father who seems like he has good intentions, but maybe he's not as good as they portray him to be, and then he has to redeem himself and then croak at the end of the film. And sorry, I was thinking of Aladdin. Anyways, I really do enjoy the third one. I'm really enjoying the fourth one. Like the fourth one's already taken the top place, and I'm only like maybe I'm guessing like a fifth of the way in.
So what did you just do in the fourth one? Where are you ish?
I believe I had done a spot where I am currently at the I don't even remember what the name of the guy is. Like the references where Jesus had 2 thieves on each side of him. Okay. And the penitent thief, I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
But they're heading I had gotten over to the property to where he was supposedly buried, and I had just gotten out of the grave or the tomb or whatever you want to call it, where I found his tomb thanks to that artifact I stole from a mansion, and I'm currently searching for the cave with the 3 crosses around it.
Yeah, okay.
And fighting Raph's, or is it Raph or Rafe?
Rafe.
Yes, I'm feeling his wrath. Rafe's wrath.
So I really with Uncharted 4, I really like the pacing of it and how it starts slowly, and you're in. After Uncharted 3,
you like the reluctant hero, where everybody's like, I'm living a normal life now, and I'm clean. But then Big Brother's like, I'm gonna pull you back into the old ways because I don't want to die. And he's like, because I'm pretty sure that at this point Nathan's feeling pretty guilty that what happened with him before, and now his brother's back in the picture. It's like, he has to finish this chapter, both for himself, hopefully for some moolah, and for his brother, so he's not going to get, a horse head in his bed or whatever the Panama Butcher's equivalent's going to be.
Right.
But I'm also enjoying this third-party thing, because before it's always been good guy versus bad guy. Now it's good guy versus bad guy versus third-party, potentially bad guy.
Right.
And I really appreciate that because I like a 3-party game because honestly, the black versus white, the orcs versus human kind of thing, it bores me really quickly and it's hard to keep my interest. So knowing that any given time, a second evil villain party could crash in and say, hello, I'm the antagonist. And then people are like, excuse me, I'm the antagonist here. I'm getting the top credits. And then they start bickering, fighting amongst each other. Now, we get that moment at the end of almost each of these Uncharted games because we'll see like random, evil monsters of some sort will come out and start fighting us. Yeah. Except for the third one, technically. Because the third one, there is the equivalent of evil monsters, but it turns out they're not. Yeah, they're mostly illusional, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah. They're in Drake's head. So, in speaking of that sequence, at that point, and especially you played all these games really condensed.
Really yeah, like I went from A to B to C so fast. So everything's
so fresh. You get there, and spoilers for a 9-year-old, 8-year-old game, whatever.
Uncharted 3, be prepared.
Yes, Uncharted 3. You shoot Sullivan.
Well, you don't shoot Sullivan.
Why no? But as you're playing through it that first time, or somebody else shoots Sullivan. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say Marlowe's partner, Mr. I love giving kids drugs guy, and shoots him right in the back.
So what did you think Sully was dead? And
100% thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And so I that's another thing I'd like to point out with the Uncharted 1 through 3 series. Not one of the major characters that you care about dies, as far as I'm aware. Like everybody, like there's people that are like, I think I'm gonna die, but then at the end it's like, LOL, JK, they're gonna be in the next one because we're still paying them and we got a hot deal for 1 through 3. Right. It seriously feels like the voice actors got a signed contract for Uncharted 1 through 3. And so they didn't want to kill him off. Otherwise, they'd be given free money for not being in a film, unless it was like a flashback or the game. I mean,
I guess one thing where I've heard Uncharted, and one reason why I think I like the game so much, Indiana Jones 1 and 3 are my favorite movies, or 2 of my top 10 favorite movies. Whatever.
Really, Temple of Doom was number 2, wasn't it?
Temple of Doom was number 2. I don't really care.
You're not a big fan, okay?
No, but I love 1 and 3. And there's a lot of Indiana Jones DNA in Uncharted. From a story standpoint, and and if you think about the Indiana Jones movies, nobody dies in Indiana Jones. None of the good guys.
True.
True. They are. It's an action. It's a roller coaster. It's an action-packed ride, and they don't want to make you sad by killing off Indiana Jones. Where although I'm guessing in Indiana Jones 5,
the Crystal Skull.
No, the next one that they're coming out with in a couple years.
Oh, I was gonna say
Harrison Ford is 80 something. I could see
he just dies of old age through the halfway through the thing.
Yeah.
I can see that
happening. And and there are narratively they do really interesting things all throughout the Uncharted series. And in Uncharted 4, what's the subtitle for Uncharted 4?
A Thief's End.
A Thief's End,
which is very suspicious to me, like the Last Jedi level warning signs. I know that A Thief's End came out because I feel like in the previous PlayStation podcast, somebody told or said something that I was like okay with, but then I started playing Uncharted and I'm like, please let me remember this wrong. Because I am currently spoiler free on Uncharted 4. I do remember some kind of mention of somebody saying that Nathan's brother Sam may turn on me at some point, which is not really a shocker because if Nathan's unable to deliver due to like maybe Elena or something like that got messed up in the picture or whatnot, and I can imagine Sam picking himself over other people that isn't Nathan.
Yeah,
I could see that happening. Honestly, I mean, it's a thief's end. It either means Nathan's finally going to give it up and retire home happily with his family, or he's going to die. And honestly, I'm hoping it's the first one.
There, and I think kind of like some of the other titles, like Drake's Deception, could be, it's kind of a double entendre.
Sure.
Drake and I don't remember the specifics of the story because it's been a couple years since I played it last, but it talks a little bit about what's the ancestor Drake? I can't the
Sir
name
Francis?
Yeah, Sir Francis Drake. It talks a little bit about him. He did something to deceive, and then of course Nathan Drake isn't actually a descendant of Sir Francis Drake.
Right.
That's like, a pretty big reveal toward the end.
Right. I think it was like 2/3 of the way in. He gets drugged personally for the first time. And after he wakes up, he's sitting there in the sunshine in the middle of a desert town talking with Marlowe, who apparently, as the villain, decides to use the power of money to give us insight on his background even further. Going as far as stating that Nathan Drake or Drake may not be his last name, and she knows it personally, but as it turns out, it's going to be something she takes to her grave.
Right. So I'll just say, I mean, I'm like, the Thief's End. I mean, everything that you can think of, it could possibly mean a bunch of different things. I'll just that have to do with the overarching Nathan Drake story, and also that have to do with the story they're investigating in the adventure of the actual game.
Now, I find this interesting because we are in a very unique position where you got yourself as an experienced Uncharted person trying to talk to a person who's like, I got the little twirly propeller hat that says Uncharted on it. Like, oh boy, gee, mister, I really hope Uncharted 4 is good. And you're like, well, I got to tell you this and this, but I got to do in such a way that could mean anything.
Yeah.
And then we have the whole audience that either has played it so much and they love it, play it so much and they hate it, or never touch it at all. So we got varying degrees of responses to like, oh man, this kid's gonna, he's gonna get it, man. He's gonna get it. And the guy's like, don't do it. Just stop playing. You're hurting yourself. Just pointing it out there.
No, that's fine.
But yes, I've been playing a whole lot of Uncharted, baby. So more importantly,
I'm excited to hear next week what you think about it, and it really is. I still think it's my favorite game on the PS4.
A lot shorter than what I really thought, though, because I looked up time to beat, and I guess like the average gameplay is about like 7-8 hours.
Maybe really for Uncharted 4?
No, Uncharted 1 through 3. Uncharted 4 is actually a lot longer, which
the first game is like 7 hours, and then I think the third game might be about 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then Uncharted 4 is
they start packing it up.
A good 15. A good 15 hours, which is a good length for this kind of game.
It was also interesting because when I heard about the expansion Pass 4, I don't remember what it's called. The Lost Legacy.
Yep.
Where it introduces Chloe and Nadine, correct?
Yes.
Now, I obviously knew Nadine from the second and third one.
Chloe.
And, so I knew her, and I was like, well, who the heck is this Nadine character that they're talking about? And then, once I get officially introduced to Nadine, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
My.
Yeah, I really, you play as Chloe, and Nadine is the sidekick character.
Okay. She's the Sullivan.
Yes.
A very unhappy Sullivan, from what I'm going to guess.
So, and the great thing, and I really liked Lost Legacy. I think it is every bit as we talked about it on the chat that it's better than Uncharted 1, and maybe a little below the 2 through 4, but it belongs in the series. It's a great side story. And I really, you learn a lot about Chloe. I like Chloe.
Does it have an iconic villain like the other 4? Well, of 3 for me, honestly, right now. But I'm assuming the 4th one,
it does. But it's really about Chloe's story of she's kind of discovering herself and discovering her own history.
Oh,
more than
really the descendant of Sir Francis Drake. That'd be some crazy level crap, man. That'd be great.
I mean, there is a there's a villain, but I really think I think the villains are almost the least memorable part of the Uncharted games. In terms of
True, it's like they had to
character
have
line.
something, so they try to throw something that was just a filler, a stand or a cardboard stand-in. But obviously, they couldn't just leave a piece of cardboard sign talking poorly to our characters, so they had to put something in with a little bit more personality, and which I can respect.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, like I said, look forward to hearing more about your Uncharted 4 experience. We are bumping up against the end of our show time. So, this week, gonna dip into new releases because I think there's a game coming out this week you were excited for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that one.
Oh, there's two
Last.
actually, but one's for a completely different reason.
Okay. There's one game called Tesla versus Lovecraft that I think could be really interesting. It's
That's right. Talking
it's a
about it last time, I believe.
yeah, it's a twin stick shooter um, that looks pretty cool. Devil May Cry HD collection, and then a game called Gal Gunvolt Burst, which I haven't played the Gal Gun games.
Really?
Yeah, but the Gunvolt on there's a game. I don't know if it's on PlayStation, but I know it's on Switch called Mighty Gunvolt Burst.
Yes, it was the conversion between like Mighty Number 9 and Gunvolt, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, and that game is awesome.
It does look pretty cool, and it was a reasonable price too. Now, I have played Galgun before.
Yeah.
Happy Love Peace, or whatever it's called, the version of that for the PlayStation 4. I paid, I think, full price, full $60 for that game, and
Oof.
that's probably the last time I had a huge thing of buyer's regret, because their hard sell, honestly, is like an arcade shooter where you're being forced to move around, then you get thrown into certain scenes, and then you start shooting around.
Okay.
But I mean, the premise was, for me at the time, was you're running around a high school where you got hit by essentially a Cupid's arrow, and all the girls are just madly in love with you, and they're running at you, and those are the enemies. Is love-ridden Japanese schoolgirls. And so you had to shoot them with what is known as pheromone shots. You can interpret that as anything you will. And, it would otherwise take them down. And you would have to team up with a couple of demon hunters. And there was an angel and a devil. I think the devil is the person that accidentally, like, kind of hooked you up with this terrible life crisis. But, yeah, essentially you're purging evil spirits and whatnot from their bodies. And yeah, it was an experience. It was a very rated M. I mean, like, it's not perverted. Well, it is actually. Let me scratch it. It is extremely perverted, but it doesn't break past the M rating. Like, there's no actual nudity or anything like that in there, but it's so suggestive that it could definitely cause a nosebleed.
Right. I'm guessing that this version, and I haven't actually seen gameplay of it, but if it's like the other one, Gunvolt games, it's a 2D side scroller, not unlike Mega Man or Mighty Number 9. And it really, Mighty Gunvolt Burst is a great game, and if this game is along those lines, then that'd be awesome.
I'm gonna guess that Gunvolt. I don't know the main character of Gunvolt. Like, I know Beck obviously from 9, but
yeah, his name might be Gunvolt.
It might be. In fact, I bet Gunvolt there's probably going to get a beach scene. I could be wrong, but I just feel like it's going to be out there. It's going to be in the cards.
Could be.
And Gunvolt's going to be running from a lot of side-scrolling Mega Man fangirls, if I'm going to guess. But that's just a wild prediction. Who knows? Who knows?
His name is Gunvolt. The other big game coming out this Friday is Burnout Paradise Remastered, which sounds like you're ready to jump into that.
Yes. This is going to be the first. Well, it's actually not even full price. I think it's what, $40, I believe.
40. Yep.
This is going to be the first game that I have bought for myself over $20 in about 6 months. That's how excited I am to buy this game.
Why are you so excited about?
Because This is, well, I know I mentioned it before. This is the only racing game that doesn't shoot out missiles or Koopa shells that I actually really enjoyed, because
Okay.
back in the day, we're talking like Nintendo 64, the PlayStation 2 era. I did play stuff like NASCAR or Need for Speed or whatnot, but they just never really appealed to me. Honestly, the only aspect of a car driving game was either going to be, the actual driver series, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. You are the wheelman. Have you ever heard of those game series?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or let's see, another one would probably be Destruction Derby, where pretty much you're racing, but your goal is also to obliterate as many vehicles as you can on the way.
Yep.
And so, with that in mind, if you think about it, Burnout Paradise, where you do stuff like takedowns, or otherwise, you get wrecked and you just show a slow motion explosions or otherwise complete destruction of your vehicle, it was a perfect match for me. And it also helps that they start off playing one of my favorite band songs, Paradise City by Guns N' Roses. That's the start of the thing. The announcer was a little cheesy, like 2% cheesy, but I like my cheese. And so he was just totally chilling. He's like, yeah, just do what you want. There's stuff peppered around if you want to do it. And I was like, be my guest. It was the first open world racing game that I have ever played. And as it turned out, I really liked it. But I love it mostly with the controller. Like when I was playing it back in the day, it was with an Xbox 360 controller, and I have it on my computer, but I don't have an Xbox 360 controller, and the controller I use doesn't really work as well for it compatibility-wise.
Okay.
And so I'm excited to get it on the PlayStation 4. Just sit on my couch and race cars around and blow stuff up.
Yeah, I've been watching, because I've been playing a lot of racing games recently. I've been watching some other people play it. I didn't realize it doesn't have real cars, though it does. I mean, they look
realistic, but they're not actual.
I mean, you can tell, like, oh, that's supposed to be the Ford Mustang, but it's called the Piranha or something.
Right, kind of like how Grand Theft Auto, like for a Mustang, would be a Dominator or something like that.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, that's not a huge thing. So I've been watching it.
Do fantastical stuff. Like, if I remember correctly, like the Batmobile. There was one DLC, or the Back to the Future. Oh crap! What is the name of that car?
DeLorean.
DeLorean. Yes, I believe there's stuff like that.
There is. I was watching one guy yesterday play, and you get the remastered game comes with all the DLC, so you have immediate access to any of those cars.
So nice.
And so there is a car that actually that hovers, that flies.
Oh,
I forget what kind of car it is, but I'm sure you can search that pretty quickly. And it zips around. It is super fast.
And I totally forgot about the nitro boost that you can get.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's a big part of the game.
Like the DeLorean, leaves actual fire trails in the tracks. So I just remember stuff like that. And, man, the more and more I remember about this game, where there was power cars, there was cars that was meant to get boost and go fast by going into oncoming traffic or near misses and stuff. Yep. Man, you're getting me more and more hyped about this, man.
Good. I think that I'm gonna take a pass on it, just because I've been playing a bunch of other racing games, and I'm also, for this year, looking forward to the Crew 2, which is also an open world racing game. That I think clearly the Crew has taken some cues from Burnout Paradise.
Fair enough.
So I'm looking forward to some other stuff. But I look forward to hearing you talk about it on next week's Psxp podcast.
Right. You'll get to hear about that in Uncharted 4. Wow.
Oh yeah, it'll be a big show.
Whammy.
Speaking of next week's Psxp podcast, it's time to wrap up this week's show.
Oh, so soon though.
So soon.
Okay.
So anyway, where can people find you on the internet?
Myself personally on Twitter, I am at 2timestyler. I do some work for the PlayStationVideoGames.com, most specifically on YouTube, which is youtube.com/PlayStationVideoGames. That's pretty much my entire territory right there, extended, plus some shout-outs to the regular crew.
Yes. And you can find, of course, Play Some Video Games on Twitter at PSVG. You can find us on Twitter at PSXP Podcast. And I guess that's it.
I guess we're signing off.
We'll see you next week.